Galaxy 666 by Pel Toro. Session 41.
Welcome back, fellow travelers, to Galaxy 666, your faithful guide Tug here. We have reached the third and last session of Chapter 10, and it can't come too soon. Arguably the chapter with the most potentially interesting plotline, a strange spaceship appears, a strange alien is encountered, results instead in our cluster of fops doing nothing but jabbering on. But I do give Pel kudos for pushing a noble perspective, and observing that we don't tend to want things until we know someone else wants them. Most of our stock market runs on this principle. The main question of the market is not what is a good company, or what is a worthwhile investment. It is rather, will people want this stock more or less tomorrow? As the price of a thing starts to go up, like stocks, or housing prices, or tulip bulb prices, Cabbage Patch doll sales, we start to want it too, even if we didn't want it before and don't need it now. This in turn touches on a familiar religious theme, and that is the dualist nature of humans. At the heart of it is the question of whether or not man is of two natures, one terrestrial and tied to survival, and one divine and seeking a moral imperative. If we see man as but an animal, then we can, hopefully, understand his actions based on a psychological model of reward and punishment. The key to fully realizing this is to understand that what one individual might see as a reward is not the same as another. A dualist nature, whether physically manifested or not, is akin to the dessert trolley. I know I want the double chocolate brownie cake, and I also know I should not eat the double chocolate brownie cake. Oski's dualism is more along the lines of, I know I want the double chocolate brownie cake, and I know I want others to see me as someone who wouldn't want the double chocolate brownie cake. What really brings this whole thing to a head is actually more relevant to how mankind goes about his affairs. Often mankind gets into wars, makes trade agreements, or goes out partying without thinking of what the next step will be. Young adults at the age of about 24 have some excuse for this. The human brain is thought to undergo momentous changes from the onset of puberty to the age of about 24. During this time, the brain is being doused in hormones and is physically reshaping itself. The last area of the brain to finally come online at the end of this process is the area that controls impulse inhibition and goal-directed behavior, the prefrontal cortex. However, when nations engage in wars without what has become known as an exit strategy, in other words, without thinking about what happens after the war, they don't have such an excuse. All those counselors and highly paid advisors simply groupthink themselves into a prolonged and meaningless conflict that invariably results in a rapid reversion to conditions before the war following troop withdrawal, assuming the horror of genocide was not successfully implemented. Oski's reference to the big white chief and waving the flag of empire are fantastic, and I think solidly lock Galaxy 666 into a time period when racism was still remembered in its darkest days with teary fondness, and the idea of empire was thoroughly mixed with thoughts of saving the savages and picking up the white man's burden and money, 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 money. I do not believe Lionel Fanthorpe embodied those ideas in any way. Rather, he had on his biretta of instruction and hoped to guide us from that darkness. So what is our team of four hoping to resolve? If they do decide to attack and kill the aliens, what then? They are still as marooned as ever on a planet that no one cares about. The question is not whether or not to fight for the Empire, but whether or not their survival is at stake. It would make more sense that the team thinks the aliens might want to kill them, out of fear or for use as food. But of course, knowing the minds of the aliens, should they not already understand all of this? I must admit at this point I'm kind of pulling for the slug aliens. And so we leave our heroes hanging on Ishklaw's every word as he mentally swims through his waters of thought with cerebral rafts in tow, looking for a logical landing place. Despite how much I love that line, I just don't think they're going to find a place to land their rafts anytime soon. And I don't mean to spoil the plot for you, but you know he's not even going to finish that thought in the next chapter. When it comes to the aliens versus these chuckleheads, the aliens seem a lot more capable of handling life in
Galaxy 666.
Here ends Session 41.